The $47 billion agricultural supply industry depends on you never learning what I am about to show you. Every year, the average American farming family spends $3,200 on commercial inputs, fertilizers, and equipment they repurchase season after season without a second thought. But 370,000 Amish farmers across 31 states have practiced these same 25 methods for over 200 years and solved every one of those costs before the first invoice ever arrived. They have never written a single check to a commercial ag supplier, not one. Number 25, composted manure. You think manure is just waste you spread on a field. The Amish treat it like a slow-cooked recipe with a temperature it has to hit. Raw manure burns roots and spreads weed seed, so they windrow it and let it heat to roughly 130 to 150 degrees, hot enough that the pile steams in winter before it ever touches a crop. The Rodale Institute, just up the road in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, ran trials starting in 1981 showing composted systems match conventional yields after a transition period. A 40-acre farm builds its entire fertility budget out of what most operations pay to haul away, but fertility means nothing if next year's seed cost you anyway. Number 24, seed saving. You buy a fresh packet every spring because that's what the rack at the store is for. An Amish gardener hasn't bought that packet in decades because the best plants in the row are left standing to go to seed and dried in the barn loft. Hybrid seed from the catalog won't breed true the next year, which is the whole point of selling it. Open pollinated heirloom seed reproduces itself generation after generation for the price of letting a few plants finish their life. One saved tomato can carry hundreds of seeds. A family that saves its own seed zeroes out a line item that runs $40 to a few $100s a year for everyone else. But a saved seed still needs ground that hasn't been worn flat. Number 23, crop rotation. You plant corn in the same field every year and call the soil quitting on you just bad luck. The Amish never give a pest the same dinner twice. They cycle corn into hay, into small grain, into legume across a multi-year sequence. The same logic the Norfolk four-course rotation locked down in 1700s England before any chemical existed to paper over the problem. Each crop pulls and returns something different, so the field never empties out and no insect builds a dynasty in it. Rotation alone can cut fertilizer needs sharply and break pest cycles without a single spray. But rotation works the dirt's chemistry, and the dirt's real workforce lives below the blade. Number 22, no-till ground. You tear the field open every spring with steel and call that preparation. Turns out that ripping the soil apart shreds the fungal networks and earthworm channels that took years to build. Many Amish growers limit how deep and how often they break ground, keeping the structure intact the way you'd leave the foundation of a house alone, instead of jackhammering it every season. Charles Darwin measured it back in 1881, calculating that earthworms move on the order of tons of soil per acre each year for free. Leave them their tunnels and they do the plowing you'd otherwise buy diesel to do. But undisturbed ground still needs cover, or the rain carries it off. Number 21, cover cropping. You leave a field bare after harvest and call it resting. A bare field isn't resting, it's bleeding, losing topsoil and nitrogen to every rainstorm that crosses it. The Amish plant rye, crimson clover, and vetch into that gap, a living blanket that holds the ground and pulls nitrogen out of thin air through the bacteria on the clover's roots. Legumes can fix meaningful pounds of nitrogen per acre over a season, then get turned under as green manure in spring. It's a tarp that also feeds you. The barefield farmer pays twice, once in lost soil and once in the fertilizer to replace it. But all that nitrogen is wasted if the plants above it are fighting each other for room. Number 20, companion planting. You give each vegetable its own tidy row and a gap of empty dirt between them. The Amish pack plants that help each other into the same square of ground. The old Three Sisters method puts corn, beans, and squash together so the corn becomes a trellis. The beans feed nitrogen back down, and the squash leaves shade out the weeds. 3 crops come off the footprint of one. A bed planted this way can produce far more food per square foot than the same space run as single rows with bare aisles. But denser planting means more mouths drinking, and water is the next bill on the stack. Number 19, rainwater and springhouses. You turn a tap and the water arrives because someone upstream sends you a bill for it. On an off-grid Amish farm, there is no tap and no bill, just gravity and stored rain doing the same job. Cisterns catch roof runoff and springhouses channel cold groundwater through stone buildings that have stood in Lancaster County since the 1700s, water moving without a single watt of pumping. An inch of rain on a 1,000 square foot roof drops over 600 gallons you can keep. The utility customer rents that water forever, but water alone won't keep food through a winter with no refrigerator humming in the corner. Number 18, root cellaring. You run a refrigerator every minute of every day and it quits the second the power does. The earth 8 feet down holds a steady 50 to 55 degrees year-round on its own, no cord attached. Amish families bank potatoes, apples, cabbage, and carrots in earth-banked cellars and springhouses that hold produce for months on the planet's own basement temperature. It's a thermos the size of a room, charged by nothing but dirt. Through a Pennsylvania winter, that's the difference between eating from your own ground until March and standing in a checkout line in January. But a full cellar assumes a harvest that didn't all rot the week it came in. Number 17, food preservation. You let half a garden's tomatoes go soft on the counter because they all came ripe at once. The Amish pantry turns that flood into hundreds of sealed jars before any of it can turn. Pressure canning and water bath canning, the same methods the USDA standardized in its home canning guides, let a family hold low-acid and high-acid food safely for a year or more. One August afternoon of work becomes a shelf you eat from in February. A productive household puts up hundreds of quarts in a season. Nothing the garden gives gets thrown out. But preserving a harvest is downstream of growing one, and the animals are half the farm's engine. Number 16, integrated livestock. You picture crops in one place and animals in another, two separate operations. On an Amish farm, they're a single loop where each one feeds the other. Chickens, dairy cattle, and pigs eat crop residue and kitchen scraps, then return manure that becomes next year's fertility, while the fields grow the feed that runs the animals. Nothing leaves and nothing gets purchased to fill a gap. It's a relay where the baton never drops and never leaves the track. The average Amish family farm runs this on about 40 acres against a U.S. average closer to 440, but a loop that tight depends on animals that reproduce themselves instead of being bought. Number 15, breeding your own stock. You replace a farm animal by buying another one, the way you'd replace an appliance. The Amish almost never buy a replacement because a broody hen hatches the next flock and a bred cow delivers the next milker right in the barn. The herd and the flock renew from inside, so the gate only swings one direction, out to market, never in with a receipt. It's a balance that compounds instead of a purchase that depreciates. A single hen can hatch a dozen chicks in 3 weeks, turning one bird into a flock in a season. But more animals means more health problems, and there's no vet on speed dial out here. Number 14, animal husbandry without a vet. You send a sick animal to the phone and a farm call invoice. An Amish 12-year-old reads the animal before it's ever that far gone, catching trouble in a gate, an off-feed, a dull coat. Knowledge handed down hand-to-hand moves faster than any appointment, and a calf pulled at the right moment in the night never becomes a bill at all. It's the same instinct a parent has feeling a fever with the back of a hand before the thermometer confirms it. A vet call runs well over $100 before treatment. Catching it early costs nothing, but animals give back more than milk, and the next skill turns one steer into a winter of food. Number 13, home butchering. You buy meat in shrink-wrapped trays and never see the animal it came from. The Amish break down their own hogs and steers from field to freezer, often on shared community butchering days where neighbors work as one crew. Curing and smoking, methods older than refrigeration itself, let them keep that meat without a freezer at all. One hog yields well over 100 pounds of usable meat that costs only the labor of the day. It's a community assembly line where the product is dinner for 10 families, but cutting meat is a knife skill, and the knife only stays useful if you can fix your own edge. Number 12, blacksmithing and tool repair. You send a dull or broken tool to the store for a new one. An Amish farmer walks it to the forge still fired in barns across Holmes County, Ohio, home to one of the largest Amish settlements in the world, and reshapes the metal instead. A worn blade, a cracked hinge, a bent implement, all of it gets heated and hammered back into service rather than replaced. It's darning a sock back to whole instead of tossing it for a new pair. A tool repaired for the cost of charcoal is a tool you never rebuy. But iron is only half a working farm and the other half grows out of the woodlot. Number 11, timber framing. You assume building anything large means a contractor, a crew, and a loan. An Amish community raises an entire barn in a single day with mortise and tenon joints, wooden pegs locking beam to beam with barely a nail in the whole frame. A barn raising turns 100 neighbors into a workforce that builds nothing, standing a structure that lasts a century or more. It's a jigsaw puzzle the size of a building where the pieces hold each other up by shape alone. Frames built this way in the 1800s are still in daily use today. But raw timber doesn't shape itself, and felling it is its own read of the land. Number 10, Woodlot and Fuel. You heat your house from a furnace and a monthly bill that climbs every winter. The Amish cut their heat out of a managed woodlot, felling, splitting, and stacking wood a full year ahead so it seasons dry before it ever sees a stove. Green wood barely burns, and seasoned wood throws real heat, so the timing is the whole game. It's charging a battery in summer so the lights hold all winter. A well-managed woodlot regrows faster than a family burns it, making the fuel free and endless. But cut wood and grown food still leave you cold and bare, and cloth is the next thing they refuse to buy. Number 9, textiles and sewing. You buy clothes already made and toss them when they tear. Amish women and girls cut garments from bolt cloth and stitch quilts built to outlive the people who make them. Sewing by treadle machine or by hand, they own the whole supply chain of the closet, from cloth to finished coat to the patch that keeps it going another year. A single quilt can take hundreds of hours and last generations as an heirloom. The store customer rebuys a wardrobe every few years. The Amish closet refills itself from a bolt of fabric, but thread and cloth wear thin eventually, which points at the deeper habit underneath all of this. Number 8, repair and repurpose. You replace a thing the moment it breaks because that's faster than fixing it. On an Amish farm, almost nothing reaches the trash because worn tools, scrap cloth, and old lumber get reincarnated into a second and third use long after you'd have binned them. The make-do habit treats every broken object as one idea away from a new job. It's a junk drawer where every item is a part waiting for the right machine. A barn board from a torn-down shed becomes a feed bin, a chicken coop, a workbench. The replacement you'd have bought never enters the math, but thrift at the bench means nothing without thrift in the numbers, and they run those by hand. Number 7, mental arithmetic and bookkeeping. You reach for a calculator or an app the moment numbers get real. An Amish child finishes formal schooling at the 8th grade and still prices livestock, lays out a field, and balances a ledger from memory and a pencil. The one-room schoolhouse drills arithmetic and measurement hard enough that the math lives in the head, not the phone. It's a chess player seeing 10 moves out before a hand ever touches a piece. A farmer who can price a herd in his head pays nobody to do it and misses nothing in the deal. But numbers only pay off when there's a market, and they built their own. Number 6, direct market selling. You sell your labor to one employer and wait for a paycheck. Amish kids sell face-to-face at roadside stands and produce auctions like the Leola Produce Auction in Lancaster County, weighing, pricing, and making change with the public directly. No middleman takes a cut, so the full retail dollar lands in the family's hand instead of a fraction of it. It's a lemonade stand that actually carries the mortgage. Cutting out the distributor can mean keeping nearly the whole sale price rather than the thin slice a wholesaler leaves. But no single family pulls off all of this alone, and that's the piece outsiders miss. Number 5, mutual aid instead of insurance. You send a disaster to an insurance company and a claims process. When an Amish barn burns or a crop fails, the community rebuilds the loss directly. No policy and no premium. The same network that let them formally opt out of Social Security under a federal exemption signed in 1965. Neighbors absorb the hit collectively, which is why they can decline most government assistance and most commercial insurance outright. It's a savings account funded with backs instead of dollars. A barn that would cost tens of thousands to contract out goes up for the price of lumber and a day of labor. But a network that's strong only survives if the knowledge keeps moving. Number 4, apprenticeship by doing. You learn a skill from a manual, a video, or a class, then forget most of it. An Amish 6-year-old learns by shadowing a chore until, by 12, they own it outright. No classroom and no textbook in sight. The skill transfers hand to hand and never gets lost to a binder nobody opens. It's learning a song by playing beside someone until your fingers forget they were ever taught. 25 skills move intact to the next generation this way, at zero cost, every single generation. But all of it rests on one quiet thing that makes the other 24 possible: Number 3, weather reading by eye. You check an app to decide whether to cut hay tomorrow. An Amish farmer with no phone reads the same forecast in the wind, the sky, and the way the cattle lie down. Judgment built since childhood. Cut hay caught by rain molds and the winter feed is lost, so the call has to be right. And watching dew and cloud beats the app for the next 12 hours more often than you'd guess. It's feeling a storm in an old knee before the radar ever pings. A right call banks months of feed for free. A wrong one costs a whole field. But reading the sky is just one face of needing far less than you think. Number 2, seasonal eating and succession planting. You expect strawberries in January and pay whatever the shipped price is. The Amish eat with the seasons and stagger their planting, so something is always coming ripe and nothing arrives in a useless flood. A row of lettuce goes in every 10 days, so the harvest is a steady drip instead of one drowning wave. It's a relay team where the next runner is already moving before the baton lands. Succession planting can keep a single bed producing from spring frost to fall frost, months of food off ground that would otherwise sit idle. But the steadiest harvest in the world still rests on one choice underneath everything. Number 1, contentment with less. You chase more because the whole economy is built to keep you reaching. The Amish deliberately want less, and that single choice is the engine under all 24 skills above it. The Ordnung, the unwritten agreement in every church district, caps what a family pursues, so the farm never has to chase growth it doesn't need, which is exactly why that $3,200 invoice never has to exist. It's the person at the table already full on what's in front of them, while everyone else orders more they won't finish, want less, and the entire $47 billion machine loses its grip on you. The grocery bill stops being inevitable. That's where it all comes back around. So here's the thing that $47 billion industry never wants you to put together. It isn't selling you fertilizer or seed or equipment. It's selling you the belief that you couldn't feed, build, heat, or clothe yourself without writing it a check. But these 25 skills were never 25 separate tricks. They're one operating system, where the composted manure feeds the rotation feeds the animals feed the soil, and the contentment underneath keeps the whole loop spinning without a single invoice. The Amish 12-year-old isn't smarter than you. They were handed the whole system intact while you were handed a cart and a card. You don't have to rebuild all 25 at once because nobody ever did, not even them. Save the seed from one tomato this fall. Let that one skill teach you the next. That's exactly how a kid in Lancaster started too.